Welcome to Necessary Trouble. Let me say just a little bit about context, and mostly I just want to put today's meeting in the context of some important election dates. Here is a reminder that this coming Tuesday, July 15th, is Election Day for the Public Service Commission runoff. Super, super, super important. So if you did not vote in early voting, please plan to vote at your polling location on Tuesday. On August 26th is the special election for Senate District 21. And some of you know this already. Some of you are already writing postcards for Deborah Shigley, who is the Democratic candidate who is running in that special election, running against 6 Republicans. So we have a good chance of getting her into the runoff. You'll be hearing more about that race later today. And then mid-October, early voting begins for the municipal general election, right, for all municipal races, and also for Public Service Commission. And that will be the special election for Districts 2 and Districts 3. And then November 4th is the actual election day for the municipals and for the Public Service Commission. And you'll be hearing more later today. You'll be hearing a little bit about the PSC, and you will also be hearing about what Necessary Trouble is going to be doing for the municipals this year. So that's the context. And we have a really an agenda that we are so grateful for. We're going to be starting off by hearing Chair Charlie Bailey, who is the relatively newly elected chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Super grateful to have him here. So happy that he can share with us his vision. We're also really fortunate to have Staci Fox, who is the CEO and president of the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, who's going to be doing an overview of the Trump's big billionaire bill. And the last third of the meeting, as usual, will be Necessary Trouble workgroup reports, calls to actions, and announcements. And that's where folks, again, who are new to Necessary Trouble, and even folks who have been with us a long time, where we recruit you and see what work feels right for you to do. Let me, before I turn it over to Karen Davenport, remind anybody who is new today, if this is your first Necessary Trouble meeting, please put your name and your contact information in the chat so we can welcome you and we can follow up. Yeah. And on that note, and if you are not muted, if you would mute yourself, please, that would be really helpful. Thank you. And on that note, I am going to turn this over to Troubler Karen Davenport to introduce Charlie Bailey. Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Becky. I am so excited to introduce to you wonderful troublers, Charlie Bailey. I have the wonderful opportunity to work with Charlie as a member of the executive board of the DeKalb Dems, and also a member of the I'm also a member of the state member of the Democratic Party of Georgia. He is just recently elected as chair, and when he agreed to speak to us this afternoon, I am just so excited for the troublers at today's meeting to listen to his message and what he has planned as new chair. Charlie was born in rural West Georgia, so he knows that our party needs to reach throughout the state. And I know that what he shares with you today will be able to take and share all over Georgia and elect people who are willing to help us, not hurt us. Charlie?
Thank you so much, Karen, for those kind words. Becky and everybody with Necessary Trouble for the invitation to join y'all. And let me just say thank you for your ongoing work in your communities as a part of what I call the broader Democratic family across this great state. Um, and I swear I saw that picture. I don't actually wear this shirt all the time. It's not the only shirt I own. But it's a good one, right? It's got the American flag. It works. But I have other shirts, just if anyone's wondering. You know, let me say, I know a number of y'all from having been the Democratic nominee for Attorney General back in 2018. I got 49% of the vote. Carr didn't let me have 49% of the office. 2022 as your nominee, as the Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor, where I had the smallest margin of any Democrat not named Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. In this role, let me speak to at the outset. I gave an interview to Politico sometime. All these interviews are blurring a bit in my head because I've been very active in that. But sometime in the last month. And I said, people, and excuse me, I know it's Sunday, but I'm going to have some colorful language. People of Georgia know they are being screwed. And it is my job as chair of this party to make sure they know who to blame. And when I'm talking about that, we've had 22 years of Republican rule in our state. In the last 12 years, we've had 12 hospitals closed. 12. Of the 30 rural hospitals that are open today, 18 are at risk of closure, and that is before the passage of the big billionaire bill. And I know my friend Staci Fox will talk about some of this after me, but studies say, and AJC wrote this up in a report, of those 18, now with the passage of this bill, 4 will move to extreme risk of closure. And I want to name where those are. These are places, these are not lines on a spreadsheet. There's places that human beings rely on. Blue Ridge, the hospital in Blue Ridge, Sandersville, Ocilla, and Montezuma. Those hospitals serve hundreds of thousands of Georgians. People will lose their lives because of the decisions that these Republicans have made. That's our situation just on hospitals. In our education system, every metric we use to measure our kids, our grandkids, our nieces and nephews, educational attainment, educational opportunity, we're last, second to last, third to last. And we got a tax code written by these jokers in the Republican Party under the gold dome that rewards billionaires, big corporations, and whoever the latest lobbyist was to buy a steak or a bourbon. The people of this state have full cause to be angry because the American dream has been deferred for them. It is less attainable now than it was 22 years ago when they took office. And this big billionaire bill talked about some of the effects. 750,000 Georgians will lose their health care. 750,000 human beings that are daddies and mamas and aunts and uncles and granddaddies and grandmamas and children. SNAP benefits cut, veteran benefits cut. And for what? To add almost $4 trillion in debt on the backs of our kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews so that Donald Trump and a bunch of billionaires can get $1 million a year for 10 years. And the single largest transfer of wealth from working people in the middle class to the very wealthy in the history of humankind. And I'll just say this. If we cannot message on this, if we cannot talk plainly, put it down where the goats can get it, plainly and straightforward about this, we all just better go home and give up. This is a crystallization of exactly what the Republican Party is and the opposite of what the foundation of the Democratic Party is. And so what are we going to do about it? I'm going to talk about 5 things generally that we are bringing about here in the party. And yes, I've been here for about 2 months. And we're already, it's like turning around the Titanic a little bit, but we got it turned around and we're just starting to cruise in that North Sea. We got to be realistic and we got to be honest with ourselves. The only thing more unpopular than the Republican Party right now is the Democratic Party. And that's true. You've seen it in a number of polls, both in the state and around the country. And what do we do to combat that? Well, the answers are the same. It's what do we do to hold the Republicans accountable? That is how we combat that. I want to talk about 5 things. First, and this is kind of more of an overarching theme, and you heard me mention the Democratic family. I joke that my staff probably has a bingo card, and when I say certain things, they're probably marking it and taking shots or having a beer or whatever. I say the Democratic family a lot. I say breaking down silos a lot. One thing I thought was the case, and then I have discovered since being here and doing my full assessment of the organization and everything, is that we've got a lot of silos built up in our broader Democratic family. We got a lot of great organizations and people like y'all that are doing a lot of great work, but we haven't had the level of coordination that we should. And the Democratic Party of Georgia is the only entity that can do that. We're the only ones that can kind of convene everybody and say, hey, and it's not that we get to dictate to y'all or anybody else, you have to do X or you have to do Y, but we have to be communicating. And I believe when we're going to do, and we are going to do this, and when we're all kind of rowing in the same direction, even though we might have different kind of lanes, we're on the same highway. And so that's what I intend to do. A couple of things in specific. I asked when I got my very first day, I said, do we have a database with every Democratic elected official in the state in it? I asked the staff. The answer to that was no. Okay. And that's unacceptable, but we are changing it. It is almost done. I should have it within the week. They have been working very, very hard to get that done. And the second question that relates to the first I asked was, do we have an ability to communicate a message, any given message? X event is happening, and we want to communicate that to the broader Democratic family. How do we do that? Just ask an open-ended question. And the truth is, we've got a listserv that goes to the state committee and county chairs. We've got a smaller newsletter. Well, actually, it's probably larger. It's a newsletter that's been kind of just compiled. Some of y'all might be on it. It's a Friday newsletter. It's got some of our county people on it. It's got some donors on it. It's got some volunteers. It's got some press. It's been kind of an ad hoc thing that's been built upon over the last few years. We can put something on social media, but the answer was no. We don't have a way to send a message to what I don't even know if they call them listservs anymore, but I'm going to call it the Democratic Family Listserv. Get a message out. Yes to the county parties, yes to the state committee that Karen serves on, but to y'all, to our allies in labor, to every Democratic elected official all over the state, whether they be in the legislature or in a municipal office, county commissioner or sheriff, to our donors, to our volunteers, and to any Georgian, of which there are millions that vote for Democrats. And that seems like such a simple thing, but it's foundational to what we're talking about in opening up this communication. We are building that, and that's be a living thing that we add to. And so one of my asks is going to be of y'all is y'all provide us, and it'll be to Justin Pitts and Becky, I'll make sure you know Justin and everything. Provide all the emails you want on it. If that's 5, if it's 500, don't matter to us. Y'all decide who you want on it. And this will be the main messaging mechanism that we use. Related to that, I'm going to start doing coffee with Charlie, check-in with Charlie. Somebody more creative than me will have an idea, will have a name for it. But it'll be every other week. And when this will go out to that Democratic Family Listserv, and it'll be 30 minutes, not long, where I give an update. This is what's been going on. This is what we have coming up. And I think that is vitally important to everything else that comes after. And I will say I stole the idea, that last piece, I stole that idea from the chair of Minnesota. He does this, brand new chair. And I was like, that's a great idea. We're going to do that in Georgia. So look for that. And let other people know, y'all know all kinds of people in the Democratic family, let them know this exists and say, listen, you want to be on it, send Justin Pitts, Justin at georgiademocrat.org, send him an email. Say I want to be on the list, or put me on. Put you on. If I'll pay for it to be as big as it needs to be. All right. If we can get 1 million people on there, that's fine. Don't worry about how many people. We want to make sure we're communicating that message. So that's number one, is broadening the communication and coordination across the entire Democratic family. One more change I want to talk about, a specific change as it relates to number one, is we always have, y'all probably know, and Karen certainly does, we have our convention historically every 4 years. It's in the gubernatorial year, usually in the summer. That's where we accept the nominations. I've accepted a nomination twice at that convention. We're going to start having a convention every year. And it's not just going to be for the state committee and the county chairs. It's going to be for, again, the entire Democratic family to come to. And we're going to have, the great speakers, there's all kinds of national people want to come here. We're going to have that. But it's also going to be a working convention with training on communications, training on organizing, training on fundraising. And I stole this idea from Wisconsin. They do this. And it'll be the annual thing. The Carter Lewis will always be our the biggest fundraiser, which I'll note we've got a date on that in just a second. But this will be the main kind of connection. And coming from, and Karen mentioned, I come from rural West Georgia, Harris County. It's right above Columbus, right below LaGrange, on the border with Alabama. We ain't got any Democratic representatives anymore in Harris County. We haven't had them since Mike Jolly switched parties back in the 90s when he was the sheriff and he switched parties. The closest we got is Sanford, right over the county line, Congressman Bishop, and we claim him, but he's technically not our congressman. I say that to say this. There's a lot of places around this state that are like that. But they matter. Because even though, right now they can't elect somebody to the county commission, they can't elect a state representative or state senator, but their votes matter just the same as the votes in Grant Park, the votes in Decatur, the votes in Athens or Columbus. Because when we reelect John next year, when we reelect Senator Ossoff, and I don't know if y'all saw, man, he was cooking with gas yesterday in Savannah. That was a fantastic speech. We're going to reelect John, but when it's John or whoever will be our nominee for governor, lieutenant governor, and the rest, all those votes across all those counties matter. And if you can get an extra 100 out of these rural counties, that's the difference in winning and losing in a state like this. And that convention is a physical representation of the connection between all Democrats in this state, so that people can come and physically see human beings that are in the fight with them, because it can be lonely sometimes in parts of this state. And they can see, hell, it's hard here to move from 20% to 22%. But that is connected to the work that people are doing all over the state. And we're a part of something larger than ourselves. I think that cannot be overstated in its psychological importance for folks all over the state. So that's number one. Number two, a communication strategy, ours is more is more. More is more. Yes, that's the internal communication that I talked about, but this is particularly about external communication. As a former candidate, I understand candidates can do work to move the ball on the brand, meaning the brand of the Democratic Party and the brand of the Republican Party, but they're very limited in their ability to do that, because you got a primary. On this date, you got to get more votes than the other folks on that date. And that is your focus. And then you got a general election on this date, and you got to get more votes than the other folks on that date. The Democratic Party, and particularly the chair, this is my responsibility to do this 365 days out of the year, to hammer these Republicans for the choices they have made and the effects that have on the people of Georgia, and to talk about our values. In the first 2 months I've been doing this, I think I've done like 30 interviews already. This is TV, radio, podcast, and we accept everything. At one point, one of the communications said, "This is such a small podcast." I said, "I don't give a damn. We're going on it. I'm going everywhere I can," because you never know who's listening to what. You never know what impact that'll have. Damn, that's a good way of saying that. Now I'm going to start, framing these issues that way. And that's my job. Nothing's too small. Okay. And so and aggressive with the messaging. Simple, straightforward. And I'll say this, Democrats, I think it comes from a very good place. Sometimes we want to talk about 1,500 things. And it's not that there's not 1,500 things that are important. Oh yeah, there are. But it ain't talking about 1,500 things. It ain't talking about 15 things. This is like 2, 3 things. That's it. That's all you talk about, because political messaging is for a specific purpose. It's not to be right in a conversation. It is not to win an argument. It is to win power. That's it. Because without that power, we can't do a damn thing for anybody. We can all sit around on the front porch and have a glass of water or a tea or a mint julep and talk about what we feel, and that's nice and everything. It won't do anything for anybody, not anything, unless we get power. So political messaging has to be focused on that. That's why I think you'll notice, if you've seen any of my interviews, and you will see more, I'm very focused. I'm down to the point. I talk in a plain way, just like you would talk if you're in somebody's living room and you're just having a conversation. That's the way we have to be talking about this. And be aggressive. Call these Republicans what they are. I make fun of them. I talk about Burt Jones' designer jeans and his square-toed boots. And people know what the hell I'm talking about when I say that. Like, that is the kind of communication that we have to be doing. That goes into the third thing, because good communication is reliant on top-notch research. When I got to the party, we didn't have anybody doing research. Now, what do I mean by that? Specifically, I'm talking about opposition research, oppo research. This stuff is very expensive. John can pay for some of this stuff, and the DS, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, and governor's candidates, the major ones, they can pay for some of it, and DGA can pay for some of it. But our state legislative candidates and everything, they cannot pay for this kind of thing. It's way too expensive. Outside of raising a tremendous amount of money, this research is like the most important thing that the Democratic Party does. So my next hire is going to be, and I got to get the money to do it, which is what I'm busting my butt on. My next hire is going to be a research director to build this in the party. And that's opposite research on the major candidates running, but also these state legislative candidates. Everybody can look and see publicly what's available, say, in this big billionaire bill. And there's like a lot of, and I know Staci will talk about this, the research they do. We've got a lot of great groups that can compile publicly available information. What I'm talking about is really digging into stuff to see, when Greg Dolezal, a state senator, how many bills has he inserted something into that is rewarding companies he's got a stake in. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And these Republicans are corrupt as hell. They've been in charge for 22 years. They think they can do whatever they want. They don't think anybody's looking at them. And frankly, y'all, ain't nobody been looking at them in a while. Our press corps ain't going to do this. There were days in the past that they would do it. Those days are gone. We have to do it. So that's number 3. We're building that research department. Number 4, this is something that hasn't been done in 20 years. We are going to invest directly in state legislative races to flip these seats. Now, the state Senate's a little bit tougher, as y'all know. We got gerrymandered maps, but we got 1 seat in the state Senate in Tier 1. In the state House, we're 11 seats away from getting the Speaker's gavel. 11 seats. In 2018, y'all, we flipped 11 seats. Now, I'm not calling our shot. I'm not guaranteeing that happens next year, but we are going to get, if I barely do anything, I think we get 4 seats. If this environment goes the way it's going. And let me give you an example of the kind of direct investment. What are you talking about, Charlie? I'm talking about paying for TV ads, digital ads, radio ads, mail. Direct investment. I'll tell you a story because we used to do this. Let me tell you 2 things. Sorry. Last year, in our top swing districts, 6, 7 swing districts, the Republican Party and its affiliates spent between $250,000 and $500,000 each in those races. That's over and above what the candidates did. We, as a Democratic Party, 0. We didn't do a dime. And I ain't Kirby Smart, but the last I checked, if one team's in the locker room and one team's on the field, pretty good chance pretty good chance that team on the field is going to win. We're leaving our people out there to fight with one arm and sometimes two arms tied behind their back. Frankly, guys, it's a miracle we're at 80 seats when it's been that kind of lopsided. That has ended. We are going to invest. I am raising money every single day to do this. We are going to invest between 1.5 and $4 million directly into these races, and we are going to flip seats. This is 11 would take, flipping on 11 would take a 94 type wave, and we're going to have to get lucky a little bit. But 6, 7, 8, this is attainable. And y'all just imagine if we get 6, then we got 94-86 in the state house, vote margin of 8. None of the terrible bills they've passed, not that so-called tort reform that stripped away victims' rights, not that abortion ban, could have passed with a margin like that. And you are getting close, very close, to coalition speaker territory. And this has happened in Georgia before when the Republicans took power. All you need is 4 Republicans to say, I might like to be speaker and you can be majority leader, and we split up the chairs of these committees. So even before we get to have the gavel, this could have a massive impact on the people of Georgia, okay? And that's a change. We've not done that in 20 years. We're going to do that. The last thing I'll mention, and then I'll want to take questions, I know y'all have them, is we've never had year-round organizing in our state. Now, we've had wonderful organizing, but it's always been cycle to cycle, and always been a bit of reinventing the wheel, building a plane on the runway, whatever analogy you want to use. That ends. We are building a year-round organizing program. I've had a campaigns director that is going to oversee the building of that. She's done it in 2 other states, Ohio and Montana. And y'all are going to be a big part of that. We are going to organize all the way down to the precinct level across the entire state. And that, because the money's going, we are going to get investment from the DS and others that have a vested interest. And I know John is fully committed to having, Senator Ossoff is fully committed to having the best organizing program next year we've ever had. We're going to do it. But you got to start now with building that framework. And we're going to be doing that. We are going to be having I want to mention a date, and then I'll stop and answer questions because I know I've said a lot. October 3rd, please mark that date. That is the Carter Lewis dinner. This is, as y'all know, this used to be called the Jefferson Jackson dinner, the JJ, the state Democratic dinner. I'll be honest with y'all, the last few, after I got in, was able to review the books, like barely broke even over the last 6, 7 years or something like that. These things used to raise a ton of money. In 2003, and I'll set the table for us, we didn't have any U.S. senators. Max had lost the year before. My mentor, Roy Barnes, had lost. We didn't have a governor. We didn't have the state senate anymore. So it wasn't like the good old days where we had all the power. We didn't have all the power. We were still able to raise, net out $1.2 million from the then JJ. So, and that was 22 years ago. This is going to be a big event. Obviously, both our senators are going to be there. They'll be speaking. I've got a call into a presidential aspirant. We're going to have one or more of them there. This is going to be a great gathering of the Democratic family, and we will be sending out an email tomorrow or Tuesday with the levels for buying tables, individual tickets, what comes with sponsorships, and all that kind of thing. I want to see all of y'all there and all of your friends there. It's going to be a wonderful time. It will be in Atlanta at the Hyatt. So that is a Friday evening. I'm going to shut up now because I don't know how long I've been talking. This is the trial lawyer in me, I'll go. So I'm going to shut up and here I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Charlie, a couple of questions, and you addressed this a little bit, but when you talk about canvassing throughout the state, I just want to reinforce, you mean every county in the state, right? That's what you mean, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And in connection with that, I'm pretty sure you're aware that we have a strong team of people who work on the Fighting 50 in our organization, who work hard to support people who are running in red districts. when you mentioned some of the support that we're giving to candidates, can you expound on that just a little bit?
Yes, and thank you for that question. One thing we've already done, and y'all might be aware, and we're working with the Fighting 50 folks, yes, and Pam Woodley was part of with Becky getting this invite to me and all that kind of thing. And I'm actually speaking to their group. I don't know if we have a date yet, sometime soon. They're to kind of you know give some advice and pep talk and everything to their candidates. Um, One, we're going to start coordinating on candidate recruitment, and I've had a lot of conversations about this. We've got Fighting 50, we've got Windless, we've got Emerge, we've got our labor allies, we've got other allies like the trial lawyers that are all like, kind of interested in candidate recruitment, obviously the House caucus and the Senate caucus. So we're going to do a lot of coordination that hadn't happened so that we're not duplicating efforts. And once we have a good candidate in a race, Fighting 50's got a good candidate in the race, no more recruiting. Stop recruiting. I'll just say for me, this idea of like, oh, we got to have primaries and everything. Listen, everybody's got a right to run, but we ain't got to have a primary. And it's much better if a candidate is a really good candidate that they can focus on raising that money for the general election. The specific support, one, that kind of coordination is support for them. Two, one thing I've already done, I made the pledge in my campaign for chair, and we've already followed through on it, is we've made Vote Builder free for all state legislative and local candidates. And we've given a 25% discount to congressional and statewide candidates. We're only the second state in the country to do something like this. And I had some folks question when I said, hey, we're doing this, say, well, is that fiscally wise and all this kind of thing? And I said, listen here. First off, we exist for one reason. Not two, three, one reason. We exist to elect as many Democrats to as many offices across the entire state as is humanly possible, period. Ain't no other purpose. That's it. And so that's what we exist for. We do not exist to make money off of candidates. And if we cannot afford to provide Vote Builder free for our state legislative candidates and local candidates, then we ought to we got bigger problems then. We ought to just shut down, because what good are we? So that's one thing. But also, I talked about those state legislative, the targeted ones, right? I'm not going to be, I'm going to be looking to spend $250,000 to $500,000, in our targeted ones. Now, a lot of ours, 70-30 races, 75-25. Of course, I can't do that. Hell, I can't put $5,000 in. That wouldn't be responsible. But there is things that we can do. Vote Builder being one, that research department, that being another. They're going to be running against people who've done all kinds of sorry ass things. We can get them that information, and they can run on that. The organizing we're doing across the state, they're going to be able to plug into that, and that's going to help them. And then advice on messaging, an open line of communication. That does remind me, Karen, let me say this as well. When I got here, we're about to have a new website, but on the website, there's no staff directory. It's just an email. I mean, yeah, okay, you can send an email and people can get back to you, but that's not open, and with the new website, you'll see it's a team directory, first off, not a staff directory. It's a team directory, and you're going to see names with titles, with emails. My staff can't run these campaigns, but they can give some advice. They can point people in the right direction. And that's the kind of support, research, organizing, Vote Builder that we're going to, again, I can't do that direct investment in the vast majority of districts, but I can do those things, and we will.
Okay, and I think, well, we have time for one more question. And I know, Charlie, in your working and making an analysis of the state Democratic committee, you had to look at finance history, where money is coming from, where it's going. If you could generally talk about funding, what it allows us to do, what decisions you have to make, and kind of decisions you're going to be looking at as we move forward with staffing and other positions as it relates to funding.
Right. So this is the budget is everything. And you ain't got the money, you don't really matter what else you think. You can't do anything with it. I inherited a situation, and I don't want to spend too long on like dwelling on the past or whatever, but I inherited a situation we were losing, meaning from what we brought in, what we put out. We were net red for this year about $180,000 a month. That's what we were bleeding a month. Okay. We have stopped the bleeding. We have turned that around, both by tightening the belt and fundraising, which is what I spend. I haven't spent the majority of my time. This is just a fraction of my time that I've been able to spend. Going forward, it's going to be about 80% of my time. But just with a fraction of my time, we've already turned that around. And for the month of June, we were in the black, up 100,000. So that is already, we have done that turnaround. And we are also, let me say this, we're building out our finance committee. The levels for that is, this is a right or raise. You can give this or you can raise it. 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. Whoever wants to be co-chairs, 250,000. And so anybody here, anybody that is interested in that kind of giving and raising, let us know. That's, again, just for the finance committee. We're interested in all giving, obviously, but that's just for the finance committee. But with this turnaround in terms of money, like, we've got a pretty big staff, and they're good. We've had two people leave. The communications director, Dave Hoffman, left. We still have Ellie Schwartz, who is very, very talented. She's a great writer. So she's in comms still, but Dave left. The executive director, Kevin Olosanoye, he left. Both of them pursuing other opportunities. But we are plugging the holes. I mentioned the campaigns director that we brought on to plug the hole around organizing and that kind of thing. That's Kyle Tromley, who comes to us from Senator Ossoff's campaign. She was his political director the last year and a half. And then she was deputy executive director in Ohio, organizing director in Montana, and others. And she also worked on Senator Warnock's runoff election. But the scope of what we're doing, and the benefit of the party, let me say this, legally, not every state party has this benefit. We can accept unlimited donations, just unlimited donations. And we can spend it more efficiently than anyone else can, just because of the way the laws are. We get candidate rates on radio and TV. You give to a PAC, your $10,000 you give to a PAC, if you're going to try to do a TV ad, is worth $2,500, because you have to pay so much more to do the TV and the radio. You give 10,000 to us, that's 10,000. So we're 4 times as powerful in our spend. Mail as well. Nobody can do mail as cheap as us. So there's a lot of reasons to, if we're talking about political direct spend, whether that you want to influence building the organizing campaign or the direct spend in these legislative races, there is no vehicle that's better than the state party to do that. And I'm going to be a good steward of this money. I don't. As soon as you start saying, "Oh, we'll spend 1,000 here, spend 1,000 here," that's how you get into a situation where you're losing 180 grand a month. So we are very disciplined about what we spend on, because we know people have worked very hard for the money that they give us to believe in what we're doing. Karen, I hope that answered that question.
I think it gave a general idea. And in closing, Charlie, there are a lot of smart people on this call who have a lot of ideas. If you could briefly, and maybe you want to email this to Pat and Becky later, of where people can give ideas and input as to things that they think would be helpful to grow and improve our party and at the state level. Could you tell us, or where did
Yeah, what
you
I'll
need to email that information or suggestions?
Yeah, no, we'll follow up in an email to Becky, but what we will do is provide basically the team directory, and then based on what the thoughts or advice or whatever it is, if it's like, communications and messaging. Well, they need to reach out to Ellie Schwartz. And all this comes back to me. But they're the ones, if it's fundraising, right? They need to reach out to Felicia Agostini or Joanna Fleming. Their names will be there in emails. And so reach out. Let us know. I don't know everything. My staff don't know everything. Just like I said, I took an idea from Minnesota, took an idea from Wisconsin. We're open to ideas. So y'all let us know what your thoughts are. And so we can take it all into account and make best decisions for the people of Georgia that we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and vision and just a wealth of information with us this afternoon. I'm going to turn this back.
Last thing, Becky, I know there's probably people that have asked questions in the chat. If you can provide those in email, and then I'll have somebody get back with each of those people, okay?
That would be beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all very much. I'm going to go mow the lawn.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. PJ, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Karen. And Charlie, I want you to know that your presentation has me excited to know that the Dems are finally on the offensive. The research unit that you talked about is an excellent idea. Fight fire with fire. And I want to ask you also to keep stealing those ideas that can make a difference, okay?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
at this point, I thank you very much. And Karen, I thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Pam Wouche, who will introduce our next guest speaker. Pam, are you there?
I am PJ, and I too am excited to introduce Staci Fox, who has been CEO of the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute since 2022. And speaking of research, I mean, one of the main things of the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute is to do research and analysis and such on budget things in order to come up with solutions that are equitable across the board for Georgians and such. So we're really, really happy to hear from Staci, who is a native of Georgia. She's a graduate of the University of Georgia. And before she came to the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, she spent 25 years in the area of reproductive rights and most recently as CEO of the Planned Parenthood of the Southeast and such. So we're happy to hear her talk about the big, not so beautiful bill and its impact on all of us. So thank you so much, Staci, for being with us. I've heard you before. Very excited to see you again.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, everybody, for having me. Happy Sunday afternoon, everybody. I am just off of making some ice cream sandwiches, homemade, that I'm very proud of. So
Cool.
I'm going to jump right in and not do my normal opening around what we are and what we do at GBPI. Feel free to join us on social media, on our website. There's so much to cover in this bill, and just given the amount of time, Denise, stop with that. There's so much to cover in so little time. So what I will say is I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to give you some numbers and overview. But tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, hoping tomorrow, but I'm actually in the middle of editing. We'll be publishing our full analysis of the bill. That'll go up on our website and up on our socials so that you can find it. At GBPI, we're focused on some specific pieces of the bill, not the entire 949 pages, I think it is, but the pieces that are going to, our website, Deb, is GBPI, so Georgia Budget Policy Institute.org. We're easy to find. And so we're focused on the sort of big chunks that affect the big chunks in the state budget. If you're unfamiliar with the state budget, our budget primer just published. So it's a great sort of layperson's version of what's in and is not in the state's budget. You can take a look at that on our website as well. Or if you're interested in a hard copy, feel free to be in touch. The biggest chunk of the state's expense budget is education, especially once you add in higher ed. The next largest chunk is healthcare. Education, healthcare, as far as expense goes. And then obviously personal income tax and sales tax are our largest sources of revenue in the state. So education, healthcare, food security, because that's going to be the biggest impact in Georgia, and tax are really where we're focused. So let me just jump right in and tell you a little bit about what we're seeing in this bill. And I agree, Pam, I don't have publicly appropriate words to replace the words that this bill is called. So I'm just not going to do it. But it is big, but is certainly not beautiful in our mind. I will just say GBPI is a traditional, not, 501c3 organization. We are not partisan, but those of you who know me from Planned Parenthood or have seen me at GBPI know I deeply believe that being political and being partisan are two different things. We are deeply political at GBPI, and everything has been made political. So we are not afraid to be political. We are just not partisan. So this is all research and facts and numbers. These aren't stories, that are made up. So let me just give you the top lines on this bill. So this bill takes about $1 trillion in tax reductions for those who are the top 1% of earners in this country through $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. So we're taking from the poor and we're giving to the rich over the next 10 years. We are adding $3.6 trillion to the national deficit. We're implementing about $387 million in cuts to education and workforce programs. We're imposing new restrictions on federal student loans and narrowing Pell Grant eligibility. And let me just say, if you know GBPI, one of the things we've been talking about over the last 5 years, this year will actually break the trend. But for the last 5 years, we've been growing a tremendous surplus, an ungoverned surplus in the state of Georgia. That will probably end up being, once this fiscal year fully gets closed out, about $15 billion. And about 10 billion of that is ungoverned, but that is not enough to cover the gap that these cuts are going to create. So we can't fix this problem in Georgia. So let's talk about tax just to start. And I'm focused right now, y'all. I'll come back and look at questions in the end. I just want to try to get through as much as I can with the time that we have today. So, this is, as we know, an incredibly regressive tax program. Georgia already has a pretty regressive tax program. Y'all know probably in 2022, we passed a new flat tax in Georgia that is being rapidly implemented by this administration and the General Assembly's majority vote that does not equitably put burden, or should I say inequitably puts burden on those who have the least. This bill, HR 1, does exactly the same. So for about 60% of households or earners in Georgia that make up to about 85.3 a year would get about 12% tax break. That's about 1.8 billion. But 48% of the overall tax savings is directed to about 5% of Georgia earners who make over $330,000 a year. So those top 5% would see an average savings equivalent to about 3.2% of their annual earnings. While households in the lowest income bracket, the first 20% of Georgians that are making under 25.6 a year. So we have 20% of Georgian households making $25,000 a year. They're only going to see an average savings in their taxes of $20 a year, while that top 5% in Georgia is going to see a savings of 3.2% of their income. Penn Wharton's done a lot of modeling around this, and you'll see us reference the Penn Wharton model a lot in our analysis. But basically, over 10 years, the model estimates about 0.4% reduction in wages and a 0.3% reduction in the GDP. Medicaid. So I don't probably need to tell y'all that we have not expanded Medicaid in Georgia. Polls tell us that over 70% of Georgians think we have expanded Medicaid in Georgia, which is incredibly troublesome, but we have not, and are not likely to after the passage of this bill. We were getting closer than we ever had before in the last 2 years, but this bill takes away the incentives for Medicaid expansion. So you can write that off in the state of Georgia, unfortunately. one of every $5 that the state of Georgia spends in our budget comes from Medicaid. This is a jointly financed program between the state and the federal government. And the federal government pays for about 66% of the cost of healthcare benefits, and the state pays the difference. And the upcoming, well, I guess the current FY26 budget that we're in, we were expecting to receive about $13 billion in Medicaid funds. You need to know, if you don't already, that the majority of people in Georgia on Medicaid are children and elderly. So when we talk about cutting access to healthcare, we're talking about cutting it primarily for those two populations, with an overemphasis on those two populations of color. So that $13 billion in federal funds is at risk in a number of different slices in this bill. So it's estimated that over the next 10 years, federal Medicaid spending in the state will decrease between $7 and about $12 billion because of Medicaid cuts in HR 1. So three things basically that this bill forces the state to do. So we have to raise additional revenue, which we don't love doing in the state of Georgia. We have the lowest minimum wage in the country. We have the lowest tobacco tax in the country. We're not looking to raise additional revenue. But we've got to find other sources of revenue to cover reduced federal funds. We're going to have to make cuts to Medicaid program by lowering provider reimbursement rates, which means we lose providers who will take Medicaid, and limiting optional benefits like dental care for adults, restricting eligibility for optional populations, such as children with disabilities, and implementing some combination of filling funding gaps or making cuts. So we're going to have to do both of that. This bill severely hamstrings our ability to support rural and safety net hospitals. And in our analysis, you'll see a map of all the counties that have rural hospitals that were already at risk before HR 1. So two ways that our rural hospitals are at risk. Basically, it freezes the state provider taxes at current rates and prohibits the state from establishing new provider taxes. So healthcare hospitals have to pay taxes to the state. Those taxes are now frozen. And so the state's not bringing in revenue that they can turn around to support rural hospitals and charity care in more urban hospitals. And in states like ours, or non-expansion states, new payment programs at 110, this is getting into wonky, the numbers, but new payment programs are at risk. So that threatens rural hospitals at two. Also, you're probably familiar with Pathways to Coverage, Governor Kemp's version of Medicaid expansion that was promised to cover 350,000 lives. You can go to pathways.org. We've got a website tracking the cost and the enrollment, which is nowhere near what it was promised and costs way more than Medicaid. But what has been taken from Pathways and put into this HR 1 for both Medicaid and SNAP are the work requirements. And we've been the only state in the country to have a work requirement through that Pathways to Coverage program. And that was a lesson learned for conservatives that they modeled into this program, unfortunately. So we've got a whole new population that are going to be required to show work requirements or other requirements in order to access care. And let's just be clear, research, and I mean qualitative and quantitative research shows that work requirements don't work. And the majority of people on Medicaid are already working. So this whole bootstrap mentality that's been around for decades is just false. And I have to say again that the Georgians most impacted by these cuts are going to be rural Georgians and Georgians of color and immigrants. They are going to experience the most harm. They are already experiencing the most harm, and we are creating more. I know I'm running out of time, so let me just fast forward here. SNAP, this is going to be the biggest threat to Georgia. We have about 1.4 million Georgians relying on SNAP. And that 1.4 million Georgians relying on SNAP intersects with the 2.2 million Georgians relying on Medicaid. Those a lot of times are the same families. SNAP is going to have new work requirements. It also shifts costs to the state. One really scary thing about that cost shift is that the state could shut down the whole program altogether. Federal law allows for that. But we're talking about millions of dollars that the state is going to have to find to fill that gap. And based on current levels of spending, about a 5% cost shift back to the state could be about 162 million. A 15% cost shift could mean 487 million. We still don't know what that looks like because we have a pretty high error rate. You've probably heard a lot about this in relation to SNAP, which is just ridiculous. But the states with higher error rates have a longer trajectory for implementation of these cuts. And so a lot has to be worked out. The USDA is still kind of getting its head wrapped around this bill. But we've got more time than other states as far as the implementation rates because we have more processing problems because we have less staff and less highly functioning systems in the state. I want to jump to education really quick. HR 1 creates a national federal voucher program akin to our qualified education expense tax credit, funneling public dollars into private schools. And then about a $6 billion in federal funding cuts that are coming to Georgia that sort of intersected with HR 1 that are going to exacerbate the cuts of HR 1. These aren't cuts inside of HR 1, but things that have already been announced for cuts from DOE, like migrant education, professional development, for English learner services, academic enrichment, and after school programs. You're probably hearing about those as well. And we know that, HR 1 also changes federal financial aid programs. And so, you may not know that Georgia students have one of the largest student debt burdens in the country. And this is only going to get worse. And I know I'm 2 minutes over, but y'all, it's a lot. And there's a lot of us still thinking about what it's going to mean. The numbers we'll publish in our piece that'll come out tomorrow. Becky, I'm happy to take any questions if you want, but I think those are my top lines to share. Oh, Becky, we're talking about when these cuts will take effect. It depends on the cut. Everything's a little bit different and staggered. Like we're still getting our head wrapped around the SNAP numbers because they're a little bit farther in the future, but the DOE cuts, the Medicaid cuts are coming immediately.
Wow, thank you so much, Staci. As I'm looking at other questions that are here, I see one that's talking about just how this information is communicated to people so that they understand the impact of these cuts in their daily lives. So when we see the GBPI report, will there be graphics and things that help explain that groups can use in communicating with the general population?
Great question, Pam. Yes, to come. This is a very busy season for us because we're normally working on our budget primer, which just published 2 weeks ago. So yes, our communications director is on vacation, which she highly deserves. But when she comes back, we'll be getting together a toolkit to get some of this out and that you can find on our social media. If there's any data in there that you want to use, you'll see citations. I mean, that's how we work. So you're welcome to use that data. This is publicly available data that we've gathered. So you're also welcome to do that from our publish piece.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. That will be most welcome by groups.
Yeah.
I also see something that says, has anyone spoken with children's healthcare? I know you were talking about hospitals out in the rural areas. What might be the impact on any of the pediatric, acute or outpatient care here?
I have not personally spoken to CHOA about this, but I think it remains to be seen what the state's going to do about this. I'm sure you've seen, talks of special session and all that, and that's just not going to happen. I mean, we'll deal with this in legislative session next year. So I think it depends on what the state's going to do. There are some dollars in HR 1 to help support rural hospitals, how that breaks down per state and per hospital, and what a hospital like CHOA might have to do to fill the gap is a little bit unknown at this point.
Okay, very good. And I see two more things, one of which is and in terms of healthcare and education and all, are any of the cuts that are in the big not so beautiful bill that are related to clean energy, are you doing any analysis in terms of what that does for for these other sectors that I know that you're researching?
Yeah, we are not, but we're working with Georgia conservation voters to do that.
Excellent.
We don't have a clean energy expert on our team, but we're also, I've got an immigration attorney on our team who's also working on sort of the integration, the intersection with what's already happening in the immigration space. So lots more to come as we continue to digest this and we hear more from DC, but that won't come directly from us. That'll be a partnership. Right now, I see your note. There are some good things in this bill. You'll see us talk about the child tax credit, and we actually just passed a similar child tax credit in Georgia this year. What we don't love about that credit is that it's refundable. We call tax credits either refundable or non-refundable. At GBPI, we advocate for non-refundable tax credits, which allows the people that are eligible for the tax credit to get the full benefit of the tax credit, regardless of any barriers like income brackets or numbers of children or things like that. So this is a refundable tax credit that is in this bill. So there are some good things, but the other really scary thing is that Johnson's promised 2 more reconciliation bills this year. And I literally don't know where they're going to find any more money because they're not going to touch the defense bill. If you don't know, the ag bill is the second largest appropriations bill that we have right after defense. And 85% of that ag bill is food security money. And food security money isn't just about supporting people who need food. It also supports the farmers who are growing the food and the grocers who sell the food. We've got a good analysis of the House version of the bill that kind of digs a little bit deeper into specific issues on our website already that talks about some of that. But the domino effect, which I know everyone knows, but we just don't talk about as much, is is going to be, this is going to cost people's lives. There's just no way around it.
Yeah. It's a terribly complicated web and such,
Yeah.
and there's so many interrelationships and everything there.
Yeah.
And we just sit back in fear. In the meantime, the last question would be, is there a call to action? Is there something that for those of us on this call or our networks that you would suggest that we try, that we can do?
Yeah, I think I'm glad Charlie was here before me and probably told you some things from a partisan place that I can't. But I think if I could just take my GBP hat off for a minute. But
Okay.
even with it on, we're leaning into C4 work too. I think accountability, y'all, is so important. And I think holding people accountable for the decisions they make and letting voters know what harm is happening, that is our job right now, is to document the harm. And so, Pam, like you were talking about, spreading the word of what this harm will do and is doing as you see it is the most powerful thing you can do for next year's election and for three years from now. We can't continue to be in this space.
Thank you. Thank you so much here. We will be loud in a very good way here. So thank you for giving us the ammunition.
Thank y'all for everything you do. Thank y'all so much.
Very good. Thanks for being with us. And PJ, I'll turn it back over to you now.
And Pam, I dropped my email and our website in the chat in case anybody wants to reach out. Feel free to reach me directly.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's very generous.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pam. And thank you so much, Ms. Fox. A wealth of information. The last part that you touched on about education, I'm very concerned about that because my county is a donor county. And I'm wondering if they're cutting, we don't have enough money as it is, and if they're cutting more money, and then we've got to donate to other counties and all that, what that's going to do to the educational system here in our county. So I appreciate that information, and I'll be following that. Again, thank you so much for coming out. I want to turn it over to Becky now, and Becky's going to facilitate the work group updates for us. Becky?
Thank you, PJ. Wow, that was a lot of information and so much gratitude to those incredible leaders, and am so So very much appreciating the work that they are doing. I'm going to share my screen for a minute about the work group updates. But before I do that, I want to say two things, just kind of gratitudes to Necessary Troublers. And one is the last time we met, we did a little bit of fundraising for Necessary Trouble because there was a matching grant from National Indivisible. We hardly ever fundraise for Necessary Trouble. We fundraised for a very short little few minutes, and blessings on all of you. We raised $7,000, which is just astonishing. It was just kind of so much gratitude for your generosity. And also, thanks to all of you who have responded to the survey. We sent a survey out in the last update, the last couple of updates, and we have gotten really good responses. And if any of you have not responded to the survey, it really helps us understand who, especially for some of the new folks, who is with us now. And so I want to invite you to do that if you haven't already. And let me go ahead and share my screen. And we will move into, jumping ahead. We're going to move into work group updates. Some of these, don't be too alarmed by how many there are, because some of these are very brief announcements. So let me start going back actually to Pam Wishay. Pam, will you just say a word or two about the Public Service Commission race?
Absolutely, Becky, and this will be very brief. As you mentioned and such, the runoff date, the election is this Tuesday. Anybody who hasn't voted, or just tell folks that you know to go ahead and get out and everything. If they're undecided, the DeKalb Dems has a nice, there's a lot of resource information that's on that website, including the candidate form, so you can just look at the candidates and make a decision. Then after, in fact, we have our Democratic candidates for districts 2 and 3. We will be coming back to you with some next steps. We're going to be making some decisions, talking with team leads later this week on that. But I'll just note, as I think I have done before, because I like to beat this drum, that it's not only this year, but it's the next 2 years that all of the seats for the 5-member commission will be up for grabs and such. So here is a real opportunity to make a difference in our state. So expect to hear from that. There will be postcarding. There will be big need for phone banking, since it's a statewide race, and maybe even a little bit of canvassing. So more soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Oh, and this is Beth Levine here. I don't know whether Beth's on, but Beth and I are co-chairing this here. So expect to hear from one or both of us. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pam. Let me also say, a couple of you might have hands raised. I want to invite you to put your questions in the chat, just in the interest of time. We have a lot of report outs to get through, so please feel free to put questions in the chat, and we will try to circle back and answer whatever is there. We had mentioned earlier that Necessary Trouble has been involved in a special election for Senate District 21. Deborah Shigley is the Democratic candidate. Pam Woodley, would you talk a little bit about the Deborah Shigley campaign and why it matters?
Yes, I am pinch hitting for Valerie Manson right now, who is at a family wedding. Yes, the Deborah Shigley, she is running for state senate in the northern suburbs of Atlanta. It is a red district, but I think, as you all know, Democrats, in the past, ever since Trump came on the scene, actually have really overperformed in special elections. We are now the party of educated, high turnout voters. And the fact that she has 6 Republican opponents, she has an excellent chance of getting into a runoff, or, who knows, possibly winning it outright. She's a fabulous candidate. She's run before. She's a mom of 5, an attorney, very, very, very admired and well-liked person. Valerie would love to have some phone bank volunteers. It's because the district is kind of far away. So phone banking is a really good way we can help. It's very easy. She just sends you a link. You do it on your own schedule for as long as you want. There's a script for you. We are leaving messages, so every call you will be doing something rather than waiting for someone to ask. And are we still putting volunteers in the chat, Becky?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So yes, if you would like to be on Valerie's team, please put your name and email in the chat. And also one more thing, Anna Marie, who is in Germany, also wanted me, if anyone is willing to canvas, we'd probably only go once or twice because it is a drive. But if anybody's willing to canvas, please also put your name and email in the chat.
Thank you so much, Pam. And I really want to emphasize, we are really eager for phone bankers. It's really great when you can leave messages because it's not discouraging. You get a lot of work done. It makes a huge difference. And if anybody is willing to phone bank and you're not already on that list, please put your name in the chat. That would be really good. And Aquaria Richardson Smith and or Lisa Vu, would you talk a little bit about the municipal rural elections that Necessary Trouble is working on?
Yes, I will. Hi, everyone. I am Aquaria Richardson Smith and my co-chair Lisa Vu. We are excited to be working with Patty Hewitt. That's who we are partnering with. Some of you may remember she ran for the congressional district, won last year against Buddy Carter. But out of that race, what she determined and what Charlie talked about, which was so apropos today, is that, we are part of something larger than ourselves. So with that, she has started a PAC, but also looked to recruit others to run in the municipal race. And what he shared with us is exactly true. I mean, it has been years since so many of these cities have had a true voice, a option, which is a Democratic at the table. And so with that, we have partnered with her and those that are going to qualify in August by giving our support remotely, which we are going to postcard as well as phone bank. So those who are interested in helping out with our committee, we are excited to go. Please put your name and contact in the chat and just put down Municipal Rural Committee so that we can contact you. And you get more information very soon. As I mentioned, the qualifying starts on August 18th, but we're getting our ask out pretty early. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aquaria, and also to Lisa for your leadership. And I want to really link this back to a couple of things that were mentioned earlier. Charlie talked a lot about reaching out to other corners of the state. Joyce Thomas had mentioned in the chat the partnering urban and rural areas. This urban-rural partnering was one of Necessary Trouble's significant strategy directions for this year. We are all in for getting outside of metro and connecting to rural areas, and that's why we're doing this municipal. That's why our work in the municipals this year is going to be through this work. So really encourage you to put your name in the chat if you're willing to help out with this. You won't have to drive to coastal Georgia, but you'll be welcome to. But there is lots of important work to be done. So beautiful. Thank you to Jennifer Conweiler for putting your name in the chat for that. And really eager. Anybody else can just drop your name in the chat and we will put you to work. Aquaria, thank you so much. And we have now mentioned postcarding in the last two updates. So, and Barb, is that you putting your name? I'm assuming you're putting the name. If you put your name in the chat and are interested in the municipal rural work, put municipal rural and then your name. Thank you so much. Kate King, would you talk a little bit about postcarding?
Yes, I would. You just heard about three things that are important: the Public Service Commission, the Deborah Shigley state senate race, and the rural municipals. Well, guess what you can do to help out on all three of those? You can write postcards, and the postcards actually work. There's research that shows that they can move the needle, and canvassing and phone banking are very, very important too. But if you are like me, somebody who cannot stand the idea of knocking on a stranger's door or calling them on the phone, postcarding. If you're not already on my list, please put your information in the chat if you're interested in postcarding. Pat's updates have given a pretty good idea of what is needed. But if there's any, if you need any clarification, email me. I'll put my email in the chat as soon as I stop talking. And let's write postcards.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kate King. Next up, let me share this screen again. Next up, Gloria Chu, would you talk about Troubler Teas? Gloria, if you're here, you might be muted.
I'm here.
There you
I
are.
am muted now. So we're getting ready to place a new order for the t-shirts, as many of you know. And this time we're going with two styles. Both are short sleeve, both are in blue. The model that you see on your left has the crew neck style, which those are a little bit heavier cotton, the model in blue on the left. And those are sized in men's sizes. So just keep that in mind when you order. And then that mysterious woman on the right in the sunglasses and hat is wearing the women's V-neck. And those are a slightly thinner material, but those sizes run small. So if you're going to choose one of those, order a size up at least. Want to get our orders in by next Monday, July 21st, as we're hoping to get those shirts in by the middle of August. In one of the updates, there was a link on how you order the shirts, and I am pretty sure that there'll be a link in the chat also. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gloria. And huge gratitude to Gloria for taking over the swag work in Necessary Trouble. And we're doing this is kind of a mini sale. We're doing it in a limited way and very quickly because we had a number of folks who hadn't been able to buy them last time. So short time frame, limited selection, but do it now and you can wear them the rest of the summer. Thank you very much. And up next is information that Onika Willibus is going to share with us about actually two new projects that Necessary Trouble is taking on. Onika, would you unmute yourself and talk to us?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay, all right, awesome. My name is Onika Willibus, and I and my co-chair, Shara, who is her birthday today, so she's not on the call. And so we want to talk to you about bannering. A few of us joined the call last week about bannering. Bannering is a highly effective form of civil engagement. It's a tactic that a company called Backbone. They were the ones that ran the call. They've been doing this bannering for 23 years. I must admit, when I joined the call, I thought it was going to be just like a big old sign, right? Just hold a sign up and, go along your way. That's not what it was, okay? So what it was, and if you look at this slide right here, it's showing a bannering project in the back. This bannering project was at the No Kings protest, the one that was in Tucker a couple weeks ago. And they held this banner at the bypass of 285 La Vista Road exit. They held the banner at the bypass and at the interstate exit section. And then they had protesters come and kind of just surround it and walk around and, do its thing. So this one says Georgia grows good trouble, right? So you see it looks very nice in the background, and it's actually on DeerNet, which I'll talk about in a second. That's why it looks like it's kind of see-through. Next slide, please. So as you can see, the banner is highly visible. It's a great way of delivering a message. And as I said in the previous slide, they can be used on overpasses or at protests, because these can be used as a walking billboard as well. It's not just standing still over an overpass. Next slide. These are more examples of the banners that they showed us on the call. The top one is showing Democracy Needs You Now. The one on the right, Who Would Jesus Deport? And then the one on the bottom left is Rise Up, We Are Many, They Are Few. Next slide. So what does all of this mean for us? Here at Necessary Trouble, we are looking to fill any gaps that we are not currently doing within our organization. So we are going to start bannering. The Zoom that we joined showed us all about how to accomplish a banner, right? It told us where we can get the materials. They do have a kit that we have already ordered. So when that kit comes, we will need some of you to join us to start bannering. It will be done in a few meetings because when we first get the kit, we first have to cut out letters off of a stencil that they provide. And if you see right here in the picture, the letters are on orange tarp. Of course, orange is because it is it's great visible, right? A visible color. So we cut them out first and then we keep them. So it's reusable, right? It's not just we make a banner and we throw it away. We're reusing everything that we have. So once we cut out these letters, we just keep them in a box and keep them for whenever we are going to apply them to the deer fencing. So whatever protest is coming up or whatever event that we want to come out and banner, we can go ahead and make that banner and hold it up either as a backdrop. If it's a protest that like the No Kings protest where people were speaking at a podium, we can put it in the background, or we can walk with it, or we can use it as an overpass. So we do need help cutting everything out, applying it to the deer fencing. We will have a second meeting after that to go over whatever events, or if we're just going to be over the overpass, right? So we will have that information so we can get together. I think it's a great way to de-stress with all that we have going on, just sitting and cutting. I will greatly take that with everything else that is going on. So just come out, de-stress, we can talk, we can meet, we can enjoy each other and have fun, right? And still be doing something that is highly beneficial to our community. All right, so if you are interested, please go ahead and put in the chat your name, your email, and please put bannering so we know what you are interested in doing for us. All right. Next slide. All right, so Necessary Trouble is doing a lot of things, as you see. Now, this is called 1 Million Rising. Again, a few of us were on a call, or we're going to get on a call, I should say. It's on Wednesday. And this call is, it's another extension of the Invisible Group that they are bringing out so we can have some training. Now, Becky and a couple of us leads kind of thought that this was going to be one thing. However, we are not sure exactly what it's going to be. Not yet. The first training is on Wednesday. The next slide, you'll see the date. So just hold on a second. So that first session, it will be the moment and your mission. That is where we pretty much talk about the issues that are going on. And this is what they told us, so don't hold me to it. They said they will talk about what's going on and how we proceed, what we need to do to get ahead. Session 2, which is the following Wednesday, how to make it happen. So that's when they start talking about organizing and what we can do as a local organizing team to put out this mission to fight authoritarianism. The next session, which is the third, is what now? So once they've shown us what to do, how to do it, now they want us to do something, right? So that session will talk about that. Everything is virtual. How to join us. Next slide. If you are interested in what we are not sure what we're doing yet, right? If you are interested, put your name, put your email, put 1 Million Rising in the chat so we can contact you. The dates again, July 16th, 8 to 9:30 p.m. Train the trainer. July 30th, 8 to 9:30 p.m., and campaign design, August 13th. So it skips a Wednesday. And that is, again, 8 to 9:30 p.m. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, Onika. Thank you so much. And two things I wanted to just say before going on. And one is so much gratitude to Onika to stepping up for leadership in both of these areas. And I think as Onika had mentioned, we had thought that the 1 Million Rising was going to be nonviolent civil disobedience training. And it's not that, actually. It is what they're calling strategic non-cooperation. And as she said, we're not exactly sure what that's going to look like. But it is a large scale, it is mobilizing a whole lot of people, and a lot of us are very, very, very curious about what strategic non-cooperation is going to look like. And I would just echo both of these initiatives are really interesting, forward-moving, and encourage you to drop your names in the chat and putting whether it's bannering or 1 Million Rising if you're interested. And again, thanks to Onika. Onika and Michelle Bennett and Alyssa Cobb will be co-leading the 1 Million Rising Among Troublers, and Onika and Sherry Miller will be co-leading the bannering. So much gratitude. And okay, Martha Reese, I'm going to put your slide up, and would you unmute yourself?
I just did. Hi.
Woo!
I agree about that training. We don't know what it is, but what I'm going to talk about today is also in line with the more alliances and the broader we reach, the better we're going to be. And so in the Immigrant and Refugee Working Group, we have a lot of people, 88 members on our email and 68 activists on our Signal chat, and we work to support immigrant communities by organizing and participating and advocating and resisting. And we have a lot going on. First, we start by posting all kinds of actions and informations about things we can do, trainings we can attend, and opportunities to volunteer. Then we go to do them. And finally, we post in our news forum results of this and other kinds of news related, not necessarily directly to our particular little area of the world. So I'm just going to go down quickly some of our more recent activities. We have members of our group who volunteer at El Refugio Hospitality House. That's in Lumpkin, Georgia. It's one of the only hospitality houses for detainees or near a detention center in the country. And every weekend they get 30 to 60 people, family and loved ones of detainees who visit and spend the night and rest and eat at the hospitality house. They need people at the house to be hosts. And so we need volunteers for that. The volunteers who've done it report that it's an amazing experience. In addition, we have, for those who speak Spanish, volunteering on the Spanish hotline that detainees call us directly for help that we can give. Another thing that we do is collect food and distribute it in neighbors together with Casa Alterna, one of our partners. Also through Casa Alterna, we accompany folks to the immigrant court line and meet them, and it's Monday through Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays, and these are called compas or compañeras, no compañeros, and it's at the gates of ICE. These people are going in for a very stressful experience, and this group is really amazing in that. We need volunteers for that too. And the next group, in relation to that group as well, we have members who are making bears for kids. Is there a picture of that on the slide? Yes, no. The Bears for Kids is the most adorable thing. And people either in groups or individually make these bears that are then distributed to kids and grown-ups. I want one too. At immigration court line and at El Refugio. And so this is another activity that people do. But again, the bears are adorbs, totally adorbs. Shop of Hope is a new partner that we have just established. It's a free thrift shop that has furniture and cleaning supplies at a warehouse in Tucker. And it's run by Welcome Co-op. And they used to do mainly work with refugees, but since there are no more refugees, they have opened it now to all immigrants. They need volunteers on Mondays. In terms of actions, our group, our members have geared up, attended, signed up for, and rallied at rallies against ICE in support of detainees like Rodney Taylor and journalist Mario Guevara. And of course, we've also, as Troubler, participated in many other actions, and I just naming a few, but the No Kings event obviously was very heavily attended, not necessarily as immigration rights, but as Troublers. So we also have trained, a number of us that trained with our another partner, the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, GLAD, as ICE chasers. And that trained us in immigrant rights. And we get messages about when ICE is reported so we can observe what is going on. Not much happens in our sort of protected area of DeKalb, but there is a lot going on in DeKalb, and just keeping in touch with that kind of thing lets us see what is going on around us. But all of this leads us to a new initiative that happened because GLAR invited us to attend a workshop a training session on what can we as allies do to support immigrants. And they trained us and asked us to form groups to go to our own local police, schools, commissioners, and other elected officials moving up to the state and national level, but starting local, to tell them that we're constituents, that we object to the things we're horrified by the things that are going on, and we would like them to help us stop these things. So as part of this, there's an allies group run by GLAR of Troublers, but also people from other groups in all of the metro area. In our group, we have formed a group called DeKalb Immigrant Allies. And that is for people in our group who are interested in going in on this and helping us research, plan, and go to visits, either public meetings or one-on-one meetings with different kinds of officials to draft up our talking points and organize our dates and times. That's DeKalb Immigrant Allies Group. And we're currently planning to go to the July 29th meeting of the DeKalb County Commissioners to present our position. So we need to do background research and plan and strategize our script and everything like this. We need volunteers for all of this. So all of these alliances, I guess I just want to end. I just think it's really important that we create as many alliances across groups as possible in order to strengthen our own actions and broaden our base. If you're interested in any of the subgroups that the Immigration Refugee Working Group has, put your name in the chat as either IRW in general or Bears, Casa Alterna, and Refugio, allies, or whatever, and we will be back in touch with you. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Martha. The immigration group is going incredibly great guns, and the allies group in particular is really ready to launch and will be a really important initiative. So again, put your name in the chat for any of those that appeal. Yeah, totally amazing work they're doing. So much gratitude to Martha and to Tara Doyle and to all their subgroup leaders. And again, name in the chat if you want to dive into any of those areas of work. And Karen Davenport, do you want to say a little bit about the DeKalb Dems?
Just quickly, as Tara was talking about alliances and connections, pretty much everything that's on here, particularly the Deborah Shigley, the immigration refugees, what Janet's going to talk about, SEBBRE, we're consistently putting that information out to our network of DeKalb Democrats throughout the county. Throughout DeKalb. So again, I'm sure some of the volunteers you have in those groups are active in DeKalb Dems too, just to reinforce that. I did put in the chat a reminder. People are generally asking, well, what can we do to combat back? We're always asking people to call the Republican legislators and complain. That information is in the rapid response team information that you can access on our website. And the other thing I put in the chat was a website, www Home of the Brave, where people that you know that are negatively impacted by Republican policies, it's good to upload their stories so we can get that information out to the public. Thank you, Becky.
Great. Thank you, Karen. And Janet Grant, I'm about to pull up your slides, and will you unmute yourself? And
I am. Thank you, Becky.
beautiful. Whoops, sorry.
Thanks for a few minutes here to give an update related to the work that we've been doing in our election board advocacy group. And I think we're competing with the refugee group for how many people we have in our Signal chat. So so we are working, as Karen said, with DeKalb Dems and also with DPG voter protection on this initiative, both for what we're looking at here in DeKalb County, as well as the State Board of Elections. So I want to give you an update in particular on the DeKalb County Board of Elections, and then talk about all the meetings that we've got coming up of these boards of elections and why it's important for us to be there. Next slide. So we have a new Board of Elections as of July 1st here in DeKalb County, and we've got 2 members that have returned to the Board of Elections: Carly Swift, who was appointed by the Chief Judge, and Vasu Abhiraman, who is a voting rights attorney. The next face, Daly Lehman, may look familiar to you. She actually served previously as one of the DeKalb Dems appointees to the Board of Elections, and actually was also chair. This last term, she took some time off, and she is coming back to the board. And then we have 2 new Republican members on the board. The first one is Gail Lee. She's a person that many of you probably have heard about. She is unfortunately a very staunch election denier and has been the source of the vast majority of voter challenges over the last number of years here in DeKalb County. She's a part of the Election Integrity Network, that's Cleta Mitchell's group, and is also very active at the State Board of Elections. So this is going to be a challenge, and all the more reason why we need to be present and vocal at the Board of Elections going forward in this term. The next appointee is Travis Bowden. We don't know a lot about Travis other than he did work at the Department of Insurance. He's active now in the insurance industry, started a new organization that's a captive insurance firm. And he describes his role with the Republican Party as being the senior advisor to the GOP state chair. So we've got kind of the state side perspective now coming to DeKalb County on our Board of Elections. Next slide. I'm not going to go through all the detail here, but I do want to point out that there was a real process. The Board of Elections has 2 Democrat appointees, 2 Republican appointees, and then one that's nonpartisan appointed by the judge. And the judge then has to approve all of the appointees. And so there was no problem, obviously, with DeKalb Dems. First of all, we also want to thank Susan Motter for her 6 years of service as a DeKalb Dem appointee on the board. The judge appointed or approved those, no problem. When we got kind of word through the grapevine that Gail Lee and Bill Henderson were being appointed, both election deniers, both people who are behind all these voter challenges here in DeKalb, we all took a lot of work on advocacy, both from the necessary trouble perspective, DeKalb Dems, the department or the DPG, our voter protection partners. We reached out to a lot of elected officials who also participated, and I'm pleased to report that there were 200 outreaches to the judge over the concerns about those 2 GOP appointments. She kind of split the decision here in that she approved Gail Lee and she denied Bill Henderson, stating that it was because Bill had a current lawsuit against the board, and she considered that to be a conflict of interest. And so the GOP had literally like 3 days to find another appointee who she then approved with Travis Bowden. And then, of course, Carly's coming back. What we don't know is who the chair and vice chair are going to be. We expect at their first meeting, which is this coming Thursday, that those decisions will be made. Next slide. I also want to make you aware of another forum that we are monitoring and wanting to be vocal at, be present at, and vocal at, and that is the Georgia House. In this last legislative session, passed unanimously a study committee on election procedures. And it is going to just be meeting. It starts meeting this week, and it's just going to be meeting through the end of the year. And we expect that information and decisions coming out of this committee will inform the legislation in this next session on elections and election procedures. The chair is Tim Fleming. Interestingly, Tim Fleming announced that he's running for Secretary of State last week. And the vice chair is Victor Anderson, who is the chair of the Government Affairs Committee in the House. And look at this really nice balanced representation. We've got 6 GOP members and just 1 Democrat. And luckily, we've got Representative Syra Draper, who's probably worth 6 GOP members or more. So she'll have her work cut out for herself on this committee. The first meeting is on Tuesday, interestingly set up on the day of an election, when many of us are involved in poll working, and obviously all of our election professionals across the state are busy. And they're saying that the agenda, which is from 10 to 4, is going to be with election experts. So those of you that are not working the polls on Tuesday, we really want to see people pack the room. And Cecilia from DPG Voter Protection has a Mobilize up, recruiting people to come and be a part of the day, just being in the room so that we have a presence as compared to the election deniers that we know will show up. Would be important. And then if you are interested in doing public comment, let us know that. And I know that Cecilia will help with that as well. Next slide. So here are all of the opportunities. We've got that on Tuesday with the Blue Ribbon Committee going down to the Capitol. Just take the MARTA down and make a day of it. And then we've got the DeKalb Board of Elections with the new board members. That first meeting is on Thursday. We expect that, again, some organizational things will happen there, and then they'll do kind of their pre-certification required meeting. It'll probably be a fairly short meeting. But again, I think we need to be there, especially given it'll be the first time with the new board members. And then the regular meeting is scheduled for next Monday, or a week from Monday, on the 21st at noon. And this will be the time for election certification. And we've seen the appeals court came out about 2 weeks ago now, saying that boards of election are required to certify elections. We've seen 40 cases where Republicans voted not to certify over the last few years. So we need to hold these new board members accountable for that certification. And then the last one is the State Election Board. Their next meeting is scheduled for July the 29th. We don't have an agenda yet. We do know there's at least one rule that they're going to be looking at, and probably continuing with some of their investigative work as well. So that's at 9 a.m. Again, you can come and just participate, be in the room, and help us show a presence. But if you're interested in making public comments or providing written comments, we will work with you on that as well. We have a toolkit for that. And we have a sign up genius that is, I've got the bit.ly there for it. And you can sign up for any of these meetings and participate with us. Again, as I said, really important for us to provide this presence, in particular as we get going with our new Board of Elections here in DeKalb County. And with that, I'll turn it back to Becky.
Beautiful. Thank you, Janet, so very much. Thanks to Janet for tremendous, really tremendous leadership in this area. And if you didn't get that bit.ly link and you want to get involved in this and you're not already on their mailing list, put your name in the chat and put State Election Board or SEB, and somebody will get back to you. Karen Davenport, your hand is up. Do you need to add something about this?
Just one thing I wanted to say. The case that Janet referred to about requiring boards to certify elections, the state Democratic Party, thanks for everybody who's funding, and when you get those emails sending money, they had to fight that case in court. And that's the only reason why it is currently the way it is, because they won that case. But of course, you got to pay lawyers, and even though you have some volunteers, just FYI. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks to Karen and also to Janet. Voter protection. Leslie High, speaking of election work groups, can you say just a little bit about voter protection right now?
Yes, I'm glad to. I co-lead this large team. We rival a couple of the others. We're 80 to 90 members strong. And I co-lead it with hardworking Pam Wouche, who spoken earlier. In the past, we have done different types of research to help the Democratic Party. We've recruited poll watchers. But for right now, I just, in the interest of time, have two quick things. First, I'd like to reiterate what Janet said about trying to attend, if you can, on Tuesday at the Capitol. And I think Karen is able to put the link in the chat if you want to register with the Democratic Party to show them that you're coming down. It's really important that we get as many people as possible to pack the room, because the other side always has a large group of folks. So that's Tuesday at the Capitol. And that's the Blue Ribbon Study Committee is designed to go over election law and procedures with input from experts. They will be having other meetings around the state through the fall, so we'll keep you posted on that. But the other activity this week that's important that I wanted to talk with you about is, again, from the DPG. They have organized phone banks starting this Thursday, the 17th, at 5:30 to 7:30. And this is in response to the fact that the Secretary of State is going to purge about 500,000 Georgians off of the voting rolls. And people can be purged if they have not voted recently, or perhaps they've moved, or maybe someone decided their mail was undeliverable. We know from the past that many thousands of people get caught up in these purges who are eligible voters. So what you can do as a volunteer at one of the phone banks, this Thursday is the first, but they will have others on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can help let these voters know that they're at risk of being purged or they have been purged, and possibly help them understand how to update their registration if that's the issue. So it's a really, really important effort the DPG is making. We need as many eligible voters having the opportunity to vote this fall. And I think Karen may be able to post a link in the chat that you can just click on. It'll give you the information. You can sign up for as many of these phone banks as you'd like. So those are the key things we wanted to talk about for this week. They've come up quickly. But if you have a burning interest to be involved in voter protection, we would love to have you. We send out announcements as they come into us to let our team members know what's going on. You can put your name in the chat, your email, and if you feel comfortable, your cell phone number, and just write VoPro, and we will add you to our list. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you to Leslie and Pam Wouche for their great leadership in that area. And finally, book club, either Aquaria or Jennifer. Will one of you just say a little bit about the Necessary Trouble Book Club?
Hey, I can, or if Jennifer, she wants to
chime in. That's great.
go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm happy to. Yeah, we have a great group, a small group, but we'd love to invite anybody who's interested in maybe taking a breath through active work we're doing. But of course, we always end up talking about the issues, but it's in a way that we focus on fiction. And our next meeting, we meet at Eagle Eye Books. We meet every other month on a Sunday. The next one is August 10th. Sunday at 2:00, 2 to 4. We meet in the back of the store. They're very kind to give us a space. Our next book is called The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And we always find angles that are relevant to what we're dealing with in our activist life and our personal life. And it's a really great way to connect. And I really want to thank Aquaria and Robin for starting it, for even thinking that we could have this book club. So we'd love to invite some new members. You don't have to come every time. You don't even have to read the book. We have a facilitator, but we're loose. It's a really wonderful session that I look forward to every time. So please put your name in the chat with an email if you'd like to participate. Or if you have any questions, I'll put my email in there as well.
Beautiful. Lots of gratitude. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you to all of those. Those are just, a portion of how many work groups we have going. But so much gratitude to all the group leaders. So much thanks for everybody who is stepping up. So much gratitude for all the troublers that are working their hearts out in so many different ways. Lots and lots of appreciation. And we do have a song on tap, but let me, at this point, that is the end of our updates. PJ, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'm going to bring up the last slide.
Okay. Thank you so much, Becky. We have learned so much today. This is my first time back in the saddle, and I'm surprised that I'm actually making it to the end. Okay. I've been sitting for well over 2 hours, and this is something I don't do. But anyway, it's been great. I signed up for the 1 million rising. So I look forward to doing that. I can't believe how we have grown since I've been here. I mean, all of these committees and everybody's doing, it's wonderful. It is truly, truly wonderful. And I'm glad to be back. So with all of that being said, I want to thank all the speakers and the work group leads, and I want to adjourn the meeting right now. And I'm going to be announcing our next meeting is going to be at Manuel's Tavern in Virginia Highlands on Sunday, August the 17th from 3 to 5 o'clock. Okay, so write that down. Get everybody put it in your, make a note, put it in on your calendar. Manuel's Tavern in Virginia Highlands. Some of you have been there before. On Sunday, August the 17th from 3 to 5. Okay, Becky?
Thank you so much, PJ, and so much appreciation for PJ. It is so lovely to have PJ back. So much gratitude, PJ. We're so glad you're here and with us and leading these meetings. And we do have a song to end with. I know folks can't always stay, so if you need to jump off, that's fine. But this is a really lovely song. A little bit of hope. We're going to leave folks with a little bit of hope and appreciation to Gloria Chu, because I think she was the one who actually posted this song. So give me a minute to get this set up, and we will see if we can get this playing.
Now I've been happy lately, thinking about good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun.
Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's gonna come.
'Cause I'm on the edge of darkness. There rise the peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country. Come take me home again.
Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh-ah-ee-ah, ooh-ah. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train.
Rendin chomchima arkidam fadate ilade mangaron unade kadi fadima joni eto manjola ar abbo dam 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 bunam dam wadadima unade fadima joni joni unchokongota. Peace train sounding loud and glide on the peace train.
Oh, I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Peace train sounding loud, glide on the peace train. Come on, peace train. Peace train, holy roller, everyone jump upon the peace train. Come on, come on, come on.
Come on and ride on the peace train.
Come on, come on, come on. Let's come on, peace train.
Come on, come on, come on. Peace train.
Come on, join me. I'm jumping on the peace train.
Come on, peace train.
Peace train.
There now. Wasn't that worth staying for?
Bravo, bravo.
You know, it feels like we spend so much time in the horrors these days, and how lovely for us to be reminded of the underlying fundamental reason we do this, right? Which is hope and love. So can we just all come off mute for a minute and give a big shout out of appreciation to everybody doing this work, and to having PJ back with us, and okay, and so much love and appreciation for all troublers who are working so hard.